ready to have some fun. So in Boulder, we love our diversity, and I should know because I walk in a room and everyone's excited to see me. And it's not just because I'm cool, it's because I literally bring the diversity when I walk in. But there's a problem, because even when I'm in the room, this is what the room looks like, because I'm a Boulder native. So I'm just a boring white guy on top of all of this. And I have this friend, Samant, and a while ago, he was doing a presentation. He couldn't find his own headshot, this guy. So he decides to use my picture as a gag. And he tells me at the end of the talk, barely 2 people even raised an eyebrow. So he decides to keep doing it, and dozens of talks later, same result. Until finally, a friend texts me and says, "Hey, Vijay, I'm listening to this panel, and I think there's a guy using your picture." And this is a friend, and he had to say, "I think." And I feel like this is more than just Boulder weirdness, right? This is human cognition, this is pattern matching, this is this thing called recursive probabilistic fractals. And the idea is the more you experience something, the more you understand it, and the smarter you are. So now a radiologist can read an X-ray in like 1/5 of a second. And that's because for him, that first impression is the latest in a series of thousands or millions of impressions. That cognition only works though if you have a sufficiently large data set. So that for that radiologist, his data set, or his N, is millions. Minorities in Boulder, that N, pretty low. So now, let's go back to high school. A kid turns to me and says, "Hey, Vijay, I saw an Indian girl here. Is that your sister?" And I'm like, "Dude, like that's so racist. What the hell? Is every white person related to you?" But yeah, that's my sister. And then a few years ago, some neighborhood kids come running up and they're like, can you play basketball with us? Will you be our coach? And I'm like, that's kind of weird. And I realized they haven't seen minorities before, so they think I'm black. And therefore, I must be amazing at basketball, right? But Boulder, white guy here, right? I'm Woody Harrelson. This white guy can't jump. And so in Boulder, right, we kind of over-index. We don't know much about outside the bubble, and we certainly don't know anything about Red America. Now, we think we do, because we all read that same article in The Atlantic. But that doesn't count, right? We know nothing, right? So a little while ago, my daughter and I find ourselves in a diner in Red America, and across the way, there's a group of guys, Confederate flag patches, bandanas, leather, and they keep looking over and whispering and looking over, and suddenly they jump up and start walking over, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna get punched in the face. But then they say, your daughter is the most beautiful little girl we've ever seen. And I'm like, yeah, my Clara is wonderful and amazing and beautiful, and she's surprisingly good at basketball. So in Boulder, we're guilty of overfitting, right? We get 2 data points from a couple articles, we jump to a conclusion. We're kind of like that guy who can't tell 2 Indian people apart. But Boulder, we do have a lot of yoga studios. Surprisingly, like this yoga studio, right, it's a nexus of adoration of all things Indian. You don't actually see Indian people there, but that's what they are. And the average Boulderite goes to yoga because their life coach measured their chakras and said they're out of alignment. And as an Indian guy, let me tell you, that's not how any of this works at all, right? I started yoga because I hurt my back playing hockey. And my doctor said maybe yoga could get me back on the ice. So to be clear, I started yoga to play hockey again. That's the whitest reason ever to do something. It's so white, it's basically Canadian. So I, as a white, possibly Canadian guy, walk into the yoga studio for the first time. And the instructor looks up and sees an Indian guy, just lights up like Christmas, right? And namaste. I'm so honored you'd share your practice with us. And how do you respond to that? What's the white equivalent of that, right? Do I tip my hat and say howdy? And so class starts, I just see joy on this instructor's face, right? She's got an Indian person in class, she has something to tell her chant circle later, life is good. But I see this joy turn into profound sadness as she realizes I'm just an out-of-shape engineer. And so Boulder, I gotta tell you, it's weird being Indian here. It's like even weirder in the yoga studio. But you know the weirdest is being an Indian guy trying to date in this town. But I'll leave you with this. The light in me honors the light in you. Howdy.